Prenups, they're a very touchy, sensitive subject, but comes up all the time. A lot of pros and cons. Obviously, going into a marriage, the last thing you want to talk about is coming up to some kind of agreement, some kind of contract with your spouse. Okay, is this marriage doomed to fail? Why are we planning for that? But a lot of good things that could come from a prenup. You could agree to a number of different things. It's not just about where does the money go after a divorce. You could agree to a number of different things. What personal assets or business assets come into the marriage? So if somebody has a thriving business that they've worked multiple years to build and that business is making a lot of money, hey, that's separate from the marriage. The money from that business and the growth of that business is not going to come into this marriage. That is mine personally. Personal assets. If your family left you a piece of property or some other kind of asset, you could agree that that asset does not come into the marriage and becomes both of ours. That stays with one spouse. Something very interesting, you could agree to each spouse's responsibilities in the marriage. You could agree to each spouse's financial expectations, what one spouse is expecting from the other, or what one spouse expects to get from a financial perspective from the other. These are a few different things that could be included. With the divorce rate in the US being about 40 to 50%, that's nearly half of all marriages ending in divorce. One thing to keep in mind, prenups are not just about what happens in the event of a divorce, but also what happens in the event of a death of one of the spouses. An example is if you have a child from a prior marriage that you want to have certain assets and things go to, your spouse will supersede that most likely, or anybody else you want to give certain assets to in the event of a death, that could be included in a prenup. So very sensitive, touchy subject, but I think a lot of pros and cons to discuss. One thing that is typically not going to be allowed to be in a prenup is children, child support, things like child custody. So those types of agreements regarding children, the court will typically kick it out, not allow it, and it won't be effective in a prenup. But just remember, a prenup could include so many different things, and you could agree and write up anything you want in a prenup.